Canada's National Police Force, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, has a long history of neglect and abuse towards Canada's Indigenous population. More than half the murders of Indigenous women in Canada remain unsolved. The problem is so pervasive that the Canadian government doesn't even know exactly how many Indigenous women are missing or have lost their lives. Their best estimate suggests that around 4,000 Indigenous women and girls, plus 600 Indigenous men and boys, have gone missing or been killed between 1956 and 2016. Good evening, my dear friends, and welcome back. Thank you for joining me once again for another episode of True Crime Jesus. This episode, we will be discussing the disappearance and murder of Amber Tuccaro of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, as well the potential involvement of a violent sex offender, also from Edmonton, named Patrick Carson, also known as Bill O'Brien, also known as Edward Flynn. Amber Alyssa Tuccaro was born on January 3, 1990, in the northern part of Alberta, a province in Western Canada. Amber had 4 older brothers. Amber's family are members of the Mikisew Cree First Nation. They made a life for themselves in Fort Chipewyan before later relocating to Fort McMurray. In 2008, 18-year-old Amber gave birth to her son, Jacob, whom she adored. Amber was said to have been a very attentive mother who took her role very seriously. She shared with him her love of dance and music. On August 17, 2010, Amber's friend invited her to fly with her to Edmonton. In order to save money, the pair booked a cheap motel room in nearby Nisku, Alberta, which was known for its cheaper hotel rates compared to the province's capital city of Edmonton. On the evening of August 18th, they checked into the Nisku Place Motel, located near Edmonton's International Airport. That evening, Amber decided to hitchhike into Edmonton. Between 7:30 p.m. and 8:30 p.m., Amber left the motel, leaving her son Jacob in the care of her friend. Amber was expected to return later that night. Amber was seen hitchhiking for a short time, and then entering the vehicle of an unknown man. The RCMP has never released the description of the vehicle Amber was seen getting into that night. When Amber didn't return to the motel room by the next day, Amber's worried friend contacted her mother, who was alarmed and immediately contacted the RCMP. The response she received from law enforcement was extremely discouraging. An officer told her that Amber was probably out partying and would get in touch soon. If she wanted to file a missing persons report, she needed to wait at least 24 hours. On August 28, 2010, an RCMP constable recommended that the case be closed and Amber removed from the National Missing Persons Database. This was a result of reports coming in of potential sightings of Amber, as well as rumored social media activity. The officer took no steps to verify the accuracy of these reports. This was followed a few days later by a media relations officer with the RCMP's detachment in nearby Leduc, Alberta, telling a local newspaper that there was no reason to believe Amber was in danger. He too claimed the missing woman was in Edmonton. The RCMP made the decision to remove Amber from the missing persons database. It took Amber's mother a month to get her daughter re-added to that list. Amber's mother wasn't even interviewed by the RCMP until 4 months after Amber went missing. Amber's remains were found in 2012 in rural Leduc County, south of Edmonton. The RCMP released a 1-minute portion of a 17-minute phone call Amber had had with her brother Paul on the night she disappeared. The recorded outgoing call had been made while he was being held at the Edmonton Remand Center. The chilling audio clip, which was in the hands of investigators for about a year before it was released, was shared with hopes that it might generate new leads. It remains the only time in Canadian history that the RCMP has publicly released an audio recording during a homicide investigation. In the recording, a man can be heard speaking to Amber in the background, while Amber fearfully and repeatedly asks where they are going. He says they are heading into the city. It is now known that at the time they were actually heading away from the city in the opposite direction. I will play that recording for you now. Viewer discretion is advised.
Where are we by?
We're just heading south of Beaumont, or north of Beaumont.
We're heading north of Beaumont. Yo, where are we going?
Just
No, this is a... Are you f***ing kidding me? You better not take me anywhere I don't want to go. I want to go into the city. Jeez. Yo, we're not going into the city, are we?
We're going.
No, we're not.
Yes.
Then where the f*** are these roads going to?
50th Street.
50th Street. Are you sure?
Absolutely.
Yo, where are we going?
50th Street.
50th Street?
50th Street.
East, right? Over town.
Bravo.
People did recognize the male voice in the audio recording. 3 separate women, in fact, who didn't know each other, said the voice belonged to a local sex offender, Patrick Carson. Patrick Carson is a horse rancher from Sandy Beach, Alberta. Patrick has multiple criminal convictions for luring young women through online advertisements to his sprawling ranch. By placing various Kijiji and Craigslist ads offering free room and board to people who agree to work on the ranch for free. Carson has convictions for sexually and physically assaulting many of his young female volunteers. This ranch is not far from where Amber Tuccaro was picked up hitchhiking. Patrick Carson is so well known that there is a website to warn the public about him. This website shares various horror stories from young women that made the mistake of going to his ranch with hopes of employment. Many of these women even believe Patrick Carson is a serial killer. As one woman commented, "I am afraid of this man. I never want to see him again. I hope everyone sees this site. I can't emphasize enough how aggressive he is to talk to. If he has your phone number, he will call you every day and try to manipulate, guilt, offer, reward, rush you, anything to get you to come to the ranch." Another woman commented, "He spent a lot of time talking about my body, how much I weighed, and how I should do some push-ups to build up my pectoral muscles. And then he said I wouldn't even need a bra because the muscles would hold my breasts up. He definitely was obsessed with the Japanese girls he had out there who would walk on his back. he talked about the naturalness of nudity a lot. Here's an example of Patrick Carson's Kijiji ads. While researching this case, I found this post on Reddit. The poster, Richard William Gate, makes various assertions in his post. He claims he was looking to learn about horses after going through a recovery period from mental illness, although he doesn't explain further. Richard needed a way to ground himself and lose such habits as drinking and smoking. Richard then jumped on a plane and traveled across the world to Alberta, Canada, to learn horse training techniques from a recidivist sex offender, Patrick Carson. Richard states that he traveled there in 2012 and 2013. Richard made a Facebook page for Patrick's ranch using photography and Patrick Carson's narrations to show some of the aspects of life at the homestead, formerly known as the Yukon Trail Ranch. The ranch used numerous names throughout the years. Since 2019, it has been using the name Heffernan Heritage Homestead. The Heffernan Heritage Homestead Facebook page says it is dedicated to the preservation of the land and to the development of an eco-sustainable and self-sufficient lifestyle. This page contains hundreds of pictures of Patrick Carson working in his shop on various projects. As Richard explains in his Reddit post, each picture is narrated by Patrick Carson himself. I noticed Richard Gate also uses Patrick Carson's phone number and his email address? What? pat@hotlinkwireless.com. That is pretty strange. Also strange is that a call to the number listed on the Facebook page was answered by a man named Patrick. Is it possible that Patrick Carson is impersonating someone who he is not? It is odd that Richard Gate mentions 4 times in his short Reddit post that he is from Italy, yet his post was written in fluent English. No spelling mistakes, nor any grammatical oddities that you might expect from someone writing a post in a language other than their mother tongue. And wouldn't an Italian go by the name of Riccardo as opposed to Richard? There seems to be more to this situation than meets the eye. That's all the time we have for this episode, dear friends. Please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. This episode of True Crime Jesus was brought to you by our benevolent sponsor, Ben & Jerry's Chocolate Therapy Ice Cream. This episode would not have been possible without the nutrition and sustenance that True Crime Jesus receives from his favorite heavenly treat, Ben & Jerry's Chocolate Therapy Ice Cream. So until we meet again, my dear friends, this is True Crime Jesus, signing off.